I really enjoyed your presentation, Comrade Suarez, and the response from Alistair and questions. I just it was I just want to like rehash it and like simple language so we can get a basic narrative for the viewers instead of jumping into a discussion. So if I understand correctly from what I've read in Comrade Suarez's presentation, um, the country of Guyana was largely created by the British, at least the territory that we know today. I'm not saying that the people, I'm not saying the culture. I'm saying what the line that was drawn up, like most in Africa, in the Middle East, and Latin America. Most of the state borders were not drawn by the people and peoples of the region, but for colonial projects. And specifically, the colonial project was a slave colony in Guyana. And then,
Absolutely. I just want to add on real quick that Ali represents the Indian elite. And
mm,
Alistair understands what I'm talking about. A lot of the West Indian, they call them West Indians. These are Indians that were brought in as indentured servants by the British, not enslaved. So their conditions were much better than the black people. But
mm,
the people that ended up staying behind, that were continuing kind of the legacy of the British, were Indian subjects like Ali. And so he represents much more the elite rather than the prior president,
mm.
who was an African man who was negotiating with Venezuela, doing the right thing. And then the United States said, "Oh, we can't have him reelected because he's going to give some land over to Venezuela," and that's why they used the full might of the empire to back and not rig, but back and meddle in the election. I can't say rig, I don't have the evidence of that, but at least to meddle in the election to back Ali, which resulted in these past 3 years things escalating.
Okay. So we got that, and my understanding is there was an abolition of slavery when Bolivar controlled Guyana. And then when the British took back Guyana, there was a reinstitution of slavery by the British. And this is the exact same borders that are established for the purpose of slavery, not in behalf of the African workers in Guyana, not in behalf of the indigenous people, but these are borders drawn by the British colonial slave project. And this has been disputed for a number of years, and there was negotiations with a more progressive government in 2000 or as late as 2016 over this long disputed border. And the United States may have meddled in elections. And in 2020, a further right regime came to power and suspended all negotiations over this land dispute
It's
between.
also important to understand that Guaido in Venezuela, his party, which are very right wing, call themselves progressive. So just
Mm,
because Ali is part of a party that calls itself progressive doesn't mean that necessarily is. He's definitely represents the right wing of that party if there's any left elements there. And he actually has a history of corruption. There was a corruption scandal before he was elected. So I'm sure some shady things behind the scenes with the imperialists was going on before he got into
mm.
power.